welcome everybody to another podcast, which we actually have not done in a while, but I will be your host, Nick. Who am I being joined by on this lovely evening?
Not me.
Oh,
You're being joined by Travis.
Nah.
And Pat. I'm here.
And Pat.
I'm
and
here.
The other guy, the grouchy guy is Matt.
That's me,
But
it's
anyway,
Matt.
this is a topic that is from one of our favorite people, littlebighorner. He gave a suggestion of what is your favorite map? And not just, this isn't the general question of what's your favorite game world. This one is more specific on the map specifically, as in the density, the structure, which map is the most fun to explore. We all have come with a couple of games we want to talk about, and we're all going to start with our runner-ups. So, which one of you lovely people is going to start us off with your favorite game map? Oh, no, Travis shaking his head. Pat looks focused.
With our runner-up?
We usually start with our runner-up and then we go to our favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to start good and then just be like, these were all right.
These are all right.
All right. Well, I'll start with my runner-up then.
Okay.
So for those of you who watched recent streams, I guess recent relative, my runner-up is Skyrim.
Hell yeah.
Elder Scrolls constantly pumping out really amazing maps, really amazing worlds to explore. I think Skyrim's my favorite. You know, I haven't played many of the other ones, but I've seen their maps. I've seen the kind of quests that you can do, and I know the stories and stuff like that. But Skyrim is my favorite. There's so much you can do. If you like, you know, when you spawn, when you start the game, if you just like start running and start like exploring random little things that you see on your mini map, like there's just so many cool little locations that have all this like really cool like locational storytelling. Like they don't just give you a note and say this is what happened here. They're like, you walk into a cave and you see like 10 bandits dead next to like a demon, and you're like, oh, some shit went down here, you know, like they tried to summon a demon or something. They do a really good job of like that kind of environmental storytelling, which is really cool. And there's like I don't know the exact number, but there's like hundreds and hundreds of little locations you can go see. All of them have something for you. Like they're all there for a reason. There's no like empty ones. Whether it just is like a bandit camp for experience, there's a reason to go there. Like even the ones that don't have any story or quest tied to them have a bunch of gold and treasure for you to like pick up, which I think is good. Like there's no reason to not go explore something.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask you a question, Pat. I'm just wondering, I remember you said on stream, how many times have you played Skyrim? I'm just curious.
Again, I don't have an exact number because I really like have played it so many times that I've lost count. But it's probably close to 20 by now.
Okay, I was going to say, because a game like that, if a game like Skyrim doesn't have a compelling world to explore and you're replaying it that often, I think replaying it that much, even though you're seeing a lot of the same signs, especially in the beginning of the game, does speak a lot to how good the map is if it keeps you coming back.
Exactly. You keep coming back, and like a lot of places that I go into now, trust, like I've seen them before. I know what's in there. You know, there are a lot of places on my most recent playthroughs, because I've been trying to achieve this goal of Skyrim of collecting every book, and that is
ballsy.
That is hard. There's like almost 500 of them. And it's sent me to places that I've never been before. I still to this day have never seen every location in Skyrim. But I think it's really cool because like even going back to places that I have been to 100 times, you know, I'm like, oh, I didn't know this was here. Or like, because I'm looking closer trying to find specific things, I'm like, oh, I didn't know this was here. This is cool. Like this is a secret little tunnel. Didn't know this was here. And like I'm replaying the game. Every time I replay it, I do a different character build. Like I never do the same thing. So it's like, oh, this was not challenging when I was like a melee heavy armor guy, but now I'm coming in here as like a caster with no armor. This is tough as shit. Like it's hard, you know?
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, Travis or Matt, who's next?
I go.
Okay.
I'll pick my runner-up for the best map would be Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Good choice.
Although it's an older game, I did enjoy playing. I played it twice actually. Second time through. I played it first on the PS3 initially, but the graphics got more better, like a lot better with Xbox One for some reason. I don't know why. But still, it was such a beautiful map. It was immense. Like, there are so many different islands you can explore. Each island had its own unique, like, feature. Like, some will have forts, some will be just wilderness. And the story does a good job of, how encouraging you to explore different islands and then seeing different places. And I just also like the way you could just control your ship. It's free flow. Like, even though there was like a main story, you didn't have to stick to it. Like, you could just easily go off, and I think that's what makes a good map, because if it invites you to like depart from the main story, it helps the gamer get a real sense of the whole game versus just like just a part of it that they thought you were paying for, but you learn more about it. And it's also like cool features, like they include like they show like little spots in the area, like where there's a possible like a ship that's sunk or that you can explore under. Also, they do a great job of like the underwater as well. Like, what you see on top is cool too, but when you're going underwater, it's a whole different realm as well. Although it can't be compared to like Subnautica, but it's still a pretty expansive game in that aspect. Along with just having your character try to explore and see like where to find the best Templar armor and all this, and it gets kind of that kind of gets annoying, but it also encourages the person to now you gotta start searching on exploring to get that armor, to get that that new set of hidden knives that you wanted to take. But yeah,
I think so I'm just gonna go ahead and say I do have another one to talk about, but Black Flag is actually my favorite map too. That is without a doubt my favorite, because I spent hundreds of hours just sailing around, trying to find every like boss ship and like crazy ship that you can find in the kind of just that overworld. Like, it's insane. But like, it's just so good, and like the kind of surroundings that you get, like the environment there too, is so cool, because like if you're on a long sailing trip and you don't stop anywhere, the crew will like start singing and just chilling, and it's kind of fun.
And I think it's really tough to do like naval games, especially like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, very well, and that especially when it gets to that kind of combat too. So I personally have never played the Assassin's Creed Black Flag, or really any of the Assassin's Creed games, but after hearing like I know Pat's talked about it, I know Mike's talked about it, I know Matt's talked about it, I know CJ's talked about it in terms of the way that it was incorporated and whatnot. For there to be a good like map that also includes the sea, I feel like that's one of the most challenging things to do, because you imagine an empty ocean or an empty river or like an empty area of water. You would think there's not much to do there. Being able to populate that map with a lot of stuff to make it more interactive, I feel like it's a tough task, and it's really cool to see a game that does it well.
Yeah.
So yeah. Travis, what you got?
Okay, so my runner-up is, I believe it's actually also an Ubisoft game. It's a game that I have on the Switch, and that would be Starlink. Because I thought it was badass as hell. Literally just flying straight into the sky and then just being in space. It was awesome. So this one, you have like a scanner on your ship, so you can like scan literally everything to 100% the game, so you get all of the data and whatever. It's definitely not necessary, but similar to how Black Flags, all of the planets kind of had their own general biome. So some were a lot more interesting than others, but there were always just a bunch of like secret little places that you can kind of explore on. And like I said, just flying seamlessly from planet into space, where like there were usually some sort of space invaders, so even that wasn't too bad. But you can also use kind of a hyper speed to get places faster if you weren't that interested in exploring stuff. So I thought that game was just really cool, and just I always like space exploration stuff, so I'm a little biased in that regard.
You Metroid fan, you.
Never.
I think you would like the game Outer Worlds.
I probably would.
It has pretty much the same. It also kind of reminds of Borderlands 2, so you would like that too because you like Borderlands as well.
Nah, Travis hates Borderlands. It's all a myth. Travis liking Borderlands is the biggest lie on our channel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if we liked it, we probably would have played it by now.
Exactly. Oh yeah, but no, that's cool. It's kind of nice at least to see that. Because wait, Starlink's more open world like, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's literally like you have a ship, and what's really fun is like I had the one where you actually have the toys. So I was At some point, I was literally just looking at my hands, going
yeah,
instead of actually looking and then crashing into things. You know, typical stuff.
The reason I like I think it's cool for that is also, as I was talking about for the sea, space is also tough to be able to capture in a game. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, so like I said, if it didn't have like literally the effect of flying from planet into outer space and then flying into a planet, like it would be a lot less cool. Like if it was just kind of like Ratchet and Clank, where you would just, you know, go planet to planet and not actually do anything. Yeah. Or I guess it'd probably be more like
this is like Ratchet and Clank in that way.
Kingdom Hearts, where like, you know, space is the gummy ship, and then it's just like you're in the level then, but you're always in your spaceship.
The gummy ship is just stupid. I'm sorry.
Hey,
let's move to a brighter topic.
Let's not shit on my favorite map, and that would be the gummy ship level designs.
Get out of here.
Yeah, we know you're lying. Anyway, I'm going to talk about some of my games. I'm going to give a quick runner-up, though, to a game that I recently played that I want to give pretty much just a shout-out, and that's Bowser's Fury. So Mario 3D World came with an edition for Bowser's Fury. Could be co-op and whatnot, but the way that map was structured, in my mind, was near perfection, especially when it comes down to taking that 3D World style into a more open-ended level design. I thought that was perfect. I just wanted to give a shout out there because Bowser's Fury's map I thought was extremely fun to design, and it really left so many options where you could go up, down, left, right, anywhere in the map, and you were still moving in the correct direction. I thought that was a very, very cool way to create a very seamless open area to explore. But my actual one that I want to talk about as my runner-up is actually Xenoblade Chronicles, or you could also say the Definitive Edition if you played it for Switch. The world of the Bionis and the Mechonis is actually really, really fascinating. So a little bit of a background. So Xenoblade Chronicles, the entire map is these two Titan creatures. You're either on the Bionis, which is the biological life, or the Mechonis, which is the mechanical life. And so much of the story is due to these two Titans and the conflict that they had, learning about the history and whatnot. But what I like about it, especially when it comes down to the world, is every single part of that world was so detailed to a part where, for example, one of the areas on there is either the Bionis or the Mechonis wound. I can't remember, because they're hit with this giant ass sword. And so what happens is that there's this piece of land that as you're crossing to get from the Bionis to the Mechonis, you're crossing this giant ass sword as part of the stage, as part of like the map. And then also you'll see that there's like pieces that are fallen off from the sword or from the actual Titan itself that is also filled with NPCs, with enemies, with quests, with the collection points. All that stuff is so cool and incorporated, and it makes a really great cohesive world that is super fun to explore. And even when you're getting from like the Bionis, which has a lot more biological life initiatives when it comes down to trees, snow areas, mountains. Then you get to the mechanical life, which is a lot more mechanical, where you see like motors running, moving platforms. All of that stuff is super cool to explore, and as you're going through, you're just like, oh, that's a nice touch. The level of detail that you see in Xenoblade Chronicles map is super well done, and they kind of were able to touch on some of the great parts when it came down to like Xenoblade Chronicles X was good to explore, but it was just like desert area, lava area. There wasn't a lot of, I feel like, more creative ideas that were in there. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I think, did a lot better of a job when it came down to like the Titan-like creatures to recapturing the same kind of design philosophy as the original one. But Xenoblade Chronicles 1, in terms of map design, I think was near perfection for an RPG.
Did the original do what 2 did, and like different times of day the Titan was in a different position so you couldn't access certain parts?
No. So and that I think is more related to the story-wise for the game, because in the story, this is just for the beginning. It might, so the Titans are perceived to be dead. Technically, they're not, because like all of the life from them that exists on the Titan is born from the Titans. Like all the biological life, pretty much. Like for example, Shulk's is this is a being called a Ham. So he's
now it's Shulk time.
Exactly, now it's Shulk time. So he comes from the Bionis, which is the biological life, and pretty much the way that it seems like is they're almost like bacteria or cells. Is this like kind of like the comparison that they make? So they're just very tiny, like ant-like creatures that are on like a massive Titan. So yeah, no, they're not moving.
Okay.
Except one of them comes to life. Just kidding. One of them comes to life and destroys the world, Travis. That's a spoiler.
Damn.
All right.
Not real. Not really. Anyway, let's go for our favorite then. Pat, what you got? We're going to say more to Matt.
Okay. I'm going to do like a 10-second shout-out of one more, and then I'll actually do my favorite. 10-second shout-out is to No Man's Sky for being so goddamn obscenely ridiculous with how big that map is. Someone calculated it, and I just looked it up just to verify the correct answer. If you were to go from an average spawn, so like if you're looking at the galaxy is like a circle, you're like outside on the outer ring of it, right? Mm-hmm. That's like an average spawn. If you go from an average spawn in that game and you don't take any jumps or like hyperspace or like wormholes or anything, they calculated that it would take almost 100 years to get to the center if you just flew in a straight line.
Damn.
Which is insane. That's ridiculous how big that map is. And there is literally no possible way that every planet on that game will ever be explored. There's so many planets in it because they said there was like several billion or something, which is insane. I don't know how you get that into like a 50 gigabyte game, but however they do it is beyond me. But my actual favorite, I was gonna say Black Flag, what Matt said, but then I thought about it a little bit more, and I thought about what we said about Black Flag, and I'm like, okay, my actual favorite map, and I feel like I might get some contention here. I might get some hate comments because I actually think this might be a good game too. I'm gonna say Final Fantasy 15.
Okay.
I think that is one of my favorite maps. I don't know how much you guys know about it. I don't know if you've played it, but it is a pretty sizable map. It's not like it's like really overly impressive by any means. What I did look up though while we were talking here, I did look up the game world in Final Fantasy 15 is approximately 750 square miles in size. Pretty big, right? Mm-hmm. They do have fast travel in that game, but when I played the game, I never fast traveled anywhere. Now, you think, Pat, are you insane? That's a lot to like run around.
Well, we know
and
you're
drive
insane.
through.
No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. No, but one of the like core mechanics in the game is, it's like any other fast travel. Like once you unlock a place, you can fast travel there. To get between place to place, your crew, your guys have a car that they drive around, right? You can have an AI just follow the roads and like kind of pre-plan a course to whatever location you want to go to, or you can drive. I shit you not, when we were in college, I used to, like, I would say, all right, we're going to go here, we're going to kill this boss, we're going to complete this quest, we're going to do whatever, and I would have the guys get in the car, I would put on the music in the car and just listen to them talk and, like, jam out and listen, like, for hours. Like, I would just have them drive around and then look at all of the beautiful scenery that's in that game, because they have, like, the mountains are beautiful, they have, like, dead titans everywhere, like, they have, like, giant crystal structures, big cities, like, beautiful landscapes, and it's just, like, such a cool world to not even explore, just, like, see and experience, like, there's not, like, I was never really compelled, like, when I was talking about Skyrim, like, there's something to do at every location. That's not really the case with this game, but you just go because it's, like, it looks really good, and it looks really cool, and you just want to see these places. It's literally like going on a vacation. Like, I want to go there just so I can go there, Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
One thing that's kind of cool too is that really, ever since it's like its beginning, Final Fantasy, well, I would say more from like 7 onwards, sometimes it would be described as, I haven't played, like there's actually a ton of Final Fantasy games that I haven't played, but I know way too much about the series. So I know what you're talking about, Pat, and I agree the world is fantastic. But one of the things that's kind of weird about the game series is that for a long time, its developers have, and the people who've worked on the games have described the game, or have described their priorities as having an almost unhealthy level of obsession with video game graphics.
Oh, sure.
But in its defense, and the counterpoint to that is, it doesn't matter what you think of the gameplay of Final Fantasy 13, or the characters, or like the battle system, whatever it is, but the world and the way it looks of Final Fantasy 13 still looks beautiful and is still one of the best, most gorgeous games I've ever seen to this day, and it released on the PS3. So whether you agree or disagree with the decision that the Final Fantasy developers go for, like even Final Fantasy VII Remake was also in that way where it looked gorgeous too. So it seems like it's a very big target for Final Fantasy games to go for that. And again, for me, I don't believe it's everything in a game, but if we're specifically talking about the map itself, I do think that a Final Fantasy game is very deserving at the spot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah. Matt, what you got?
Yeah. All right. My favorite game for map would be Red Dead Redemption 2. Yeah, Arthur Morgan. Anyways, besides him, it's just the game is so freaking big. Like, man, this game takes like 2 discs that you need to install. But other than that, like, that's for a console, but for PC, I'm not sure how big actually. How big is it? Let's take a look.
Big.
It is very big. Anyways, they also story does a great job of allowing you to explore different parts of the regions, and it does a good job of separating between, like, you start out in the small western town. Well, actually, I take that back. You start in like the freaking cold ass mountain, freezing your balls off with your hunting party, and then you're running away from, the previous story. But I won't spoil
Living
that.
the dream.
I know. And then they do a good job of, transitioning the character from, like, not just from like the desert to like the frozen tundra, and then you're out in some random island eventually, which was terrible. But that part wasn't really the map's fault. It was mostly the story's issue. But yeah, like, there's also so many like things to do. Like, there's so many places to explore. You get to meet all these random side characters that have like their own like stories, and then they teach you to do like hunting, like, and it allows you to do, like, you could like set up a camp like anywhere you want. You could just, if you want, you could just like camp, sit by the fire, and cook your raw tuna and your raw deer meat and eat it raw if you want, or you can make it well done. It's up to you, but you gotta find a recipe for that first before, or else you'll get.
Wait, hold on. Do they really actually let you like control your meat temperature?
Like, it depends on how long you cook it for. Yeah.
That's insane.
I would
straight
eat
up
raw
just
meat
like
all the time.
No, like, not even that. It's the fact that you can
Extra
say,
rare.
I want my steak well done.
Yeah.
I want my steak well done.
With the side of A1 steak sauce.
Yeah, like, or I want it to be medium rare.
Medium
like,
rare.
You can control that. That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Medium rare is the way to go in my personal.
Hell yeah.
And then you could go camping, and then you could go under the stars, go hunting, go fishing for all the time in the world. You could just fish. Honestly, you could just fish in that game and hunt. You don't even have to do the mission, honestly. Well, or just find random people and murder them, but that's Arthur Morgan.
That's Matt's priorities.
Yeah.
You make the character pretty much, because then like there's a system where like it's like a pretty much karma system where like you do good deeds, you're gonna be moving on closer to the good deeds. You do bad deeds, it puts you on the bad deeds. And then if you're wanted too, there'll be regions, like towns will have you like as a wanted, like where if you walk into town you'll be shot because they're like, you're wanted, unless you pay your bounty.
Matt, this is I'm sorry, I do have to take this aside. It's not anything about well, it is kind of related to the map. Do they still have you in Red Dead 2? I never played it, but I played the shit out of Red Dead 1. Are you still able to like hunt mythical creatures depending on the region?
Mythical creatures.
Yeah, because in Red Dead 1, if you go like far
yeah.
enough north, you can hunt Bigfoot.
Well,
and then if you go like far enough south, and if you cross the border into Mexico, you can like hunt for the
Chupacabra. It's sort of like that. They're not, I guess, like those like folktale creatures.
Sure.
They're more of like this giant ass boar that takes like 5,000 bows to take down, pretty much.
Sure.
Or like this one rare wolf or something. So I guess they don't really have names, but like they're like mythical and like they're rare.
Okay.
They're rare.
All right.
And then if you like kill them, you can unlock a bunch of new gear for your dude. And then it's cool to see like how a game can incorporate just a small western town to like a quiet, peaceful mountain town to like an industrial town in Saint Denis. So like it just does a good job of enveloping the player to see what's going on. Like you can go from just a random town to just like you could easily take over, I guess, a random town because there's like no one there. But if you try to pull a gun on a random person in the city, you're gonna see a lot more police officers at you versus that one sheriff. But yeah, I mean, definitely like. Also, another part of it's just like what really makes a good map is that the player wants to play the game twice. And I feel like there's a lot of
or 20 times.
Or like 50 times. Or 50 times like Pat.
Yeah, like an insane person.
No. You're cultured in Skyrim.
Yeah, crazy. He crazy.
You have a culture. You're cultured in Skyrim.
Okay. All right.
All right, Travis.
Okay, so like Nick said earlier, I am a Metroid fan, and so my favorite map is going to be Metroid Prime Echoes.
Great choice.
Yes.
Great fucking choice.
Because I would say like the original map, it's a lot like the original where you'll see something and be like, oh, if I had this specific rocket, I'd be able to open up this area. But then it also adds the freaking Dark World, which is dope as hell, because now you get to re-experience the entire level design, but now you're running around like crazy trying to find all the safe spots to, stay alive, because when you're in the Dark World, you're constantly dying.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is the one with the phase. This has a phase on suit, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds stressful.
It's awesome.
It's badass.
Yeah.
If you ever seen gameplay, it's badass.
It's freaking awesome. Like, I thought the Dark World wouldn't be that intense, and then I went in and I'm like, oh, I'm losing health. Oh shit, where's the safe bubble? I mean, usually, at least so far, it has been 2. I'm assuming once you get deeper in the game, it'll get more. I'm probably only about halfway done with it right now. But all of this teasing of Metroid Prime 4 has made me want to go and play all of them again. So I've replayed the
Maybe
first
by
one.
2025.
Maybe.
Yeah, if he's lucky.
Like I said, the
Switch Pro exclusive.
Yeah. What's so cool about the level design of it is it'll put you into it, and like now you can go wherever you want. It doesn't even tell you exactly where to go next. Like eventually, if you're just wandering around, it'll be like, hey, there's an alert right here. Maybe you should check that out and advance the story. Only if you want. But it lets you kind of look at the map and be like, okay, I just got this upgrade, so now I'm able to go to this door, and then there's puzzles all around the way. They're not required by any means. Like, you basically only need like 1 or 2 health packs and 1 or 2 rocket upgrades, and you'd be able to beat the game with that. Easy. But I like to solve puzzles, so my Samus is going to be decked out as hell, and I could probably just shoot rockets the entire time at the last boss and win. But yeah, just that game, when I was thinking map design, I was like, I have to go with it because it's so, like, the game, even though it's on GameCube, is gorgeous, which is crazy in itself. It's like, hell, even Cody would be like, yeah, this game looks pretty good. and he's
The Metroid Prime games have aged very well.
They have. Like, when I played the original for the first time a few years ago, I couldn't believe that this was a GameCube game. Let alone probably an earlier GameCube game, considering the second one was also on the GameCube. So, yeah, they put some time into it, and it paid off. I love those games so much, and I can't wait to play the third one. And the fourth one...
which hopefully will happen by 2030.
Eventually, my kids will love it.
Well, either way. All right, so I'll move on to the final one then. Also, I'm going to do what Pat did to give a quick shout out, but it's going to be even shorter than Pat's. I just remembered that Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda, has a very badass dark and light world. When Travis mentioned Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, I had to at least throw that one in. Not going to really talk about it, it's just cool and I just remembered it. But my favorite one is Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana.
I've also played that game.
What?
Yeah, Ys
One more
8,
time?
Lacrimosa of Dana.
I know some of those words.
YS 8, like Roman numeral 8, VIII, the 8th game of the Ys series, Lacrimosa of Dana.
Yeah, there's a hot blue-haired chick.
It's a totally normal name, Pat.
I know some of these words.
No, you don't. I know Donna. That's because it's a name.
Anyway, so I'm actually gonna take it a different route than what Pat and Matt was, and what I liked about it. And what I liked about Ys 8's world is it's very concise. And the reason I like that is because I feel like the amount of detail, Travis can probably vouch for this too, if you're in the world itself, it's very good at allowing you to both move through, explore. First of all, also I'm a very big sucker for island settings, and this game I feel like has a very great island setting. And the way that you customize it and actually build your civilization up is fantastic as well. But what I really like about it is the way that the collection points are scattered about, the way that the checkpoints are laid out, the way that every part of like that you would consider a typical like, because Ys is kind of more of like a dungeon crawler action RPG. Every section of it is like a different section of the actual like island itself, and it's sectioned off very well that you never get two areas that are very similar in terms of landscape, in terms of the overall layout of it. And the enemies are very varied, where it looks like it's very fitting of what the setting is. Obviously, it's a JRPG, so when you get to a certain extent, you're going to see a whole bunch of things that would be kind of outlandish. But either way, what I liked about it is that everything in there was a very great, concise package, and I think that's what was fantastic about it. Some people might disagree with the fact that some of the quests are missable, but it's like, okay, you didn't want to do it now, it already gives you a deadline, whether it's a short or a long quest. You have to do it right away, and that quest that you do can also be directly tied to the other areas of the island that you have yet to explore, or other items that you have yet to get. So what I like about it, if anything, is while it's a smaller map, I mean, Ys 8, I mentioned it before, it was a Vita exclusive for a long time. It actually wasn't meant to come out on PS4 and Switch for a while. But that game as a whole, what is in the map and the amount of detail, like I mentioned before, the amount of detail is really what I look for. The amount of detail in every section of this game is very, very well done. Whether it comes down to the collection points, like I mentioned before, the different caves you explore, or the swamp or marsh areas that you explore, or even going under the swamp area once you're able to do so. All of that packaged in allows for at least me personally to go through multiple playthroughs like Pat has done, or I think maybe Matt has done for Red Dead as well, to keep going through and wanting to explore more of it. Because one of my favorite things about the Ys series, and it's one of the things that I did on every Ys game that I've played, is I have 100% filled out the map, because I feel like that's one of the most fun things that I do. I usually aim for games that have map completion because I have so much fun doing so, and I've never met a game series that's better at map completion, in my personal opinion, than the Ys series. So there are other great game maps, like obviously that we mentioned before. Pat mentioned Skyrim, Matt mentioned Red Dead, Travis mentioned Metroid. Those are all fantastic game maps. But me personally, I think the map completion, it was done best with the Ys series.
Another thing that was cool with that game specifically was when you would go back in time as Dana, it would actually affect how the current world map looked, which was
that is another
cool.
Great point.
That's
a big spoiler, by the way, but who cares? What's up, Pat?
That's enough to make me consider playing this weird game. Okay,
it's pretty cool.
So now that Travis mentioned it, I'll do a little explaining. So what happens is that time travel is already a spoiler. Usually the games that do time travel is pretty bad, and this game was done well. So what happens is that you play during two different time periods, and one of the time periods you play as a girl named Dana. And what happens is that throughout multiple parts of the story, usually around like the, say, halfway point or a little past the halfway point, actually a little before the halfway point, you see it for his first time, you're able to influence things happening in the world. So one of the first examples that you get is you see this big gorge that you cannot pass. So what happens as part of the story progresses, you go back in time with Donna, and your section of Donna, you plant a tree. And so the tree that you plant, one of the tree roots extend to give you a path to continue exploring the island. Stuff like that.
So cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stuff like that is super well done. It actually incorporates the time travel mechanic very, very well done. I always mention it. Just as like what's the right word? A precaution. Some people might get turned off by the art style, which is fine. But I always throw it as a precaution because I don't want anybody. Because I've seen a lot of people look at the Yeast series and just be like, this doesn't look like my kind of game. Trust me when I say, ignore that. The gameplay is stellar. Mm-hmm. So that's just my personal opinion. Even like I've even like known Yeast, or I've kind of accepted the fact that Yeast doesn't have very good central narratives, like overall stories for the games. The map exploration, the gameplay, and the combat, like all of it combined, I know it's kind of grouped together, but I know I'm geeking out a bit. But all three of those always make for a great experience gameplay wise. If you overlook the story a bit in some of the games, I mean, they're not bad by any means, but if you don't care as much about it, the gameplay should win you over, in my opinion. So
it is a fun game. I would also recommend.
It is very, very good. So yeah. And unless anybody else has anything to say, I will wrap it up. What do you guys have? Nothing?
Obviously, we all forgot to mention it, but Animal Crossing New Horizons is actually the best, because
Matt is giving you a look when you're saying that,
better of
Travis.
a map is the one that you can create yourself.
You get to make yourself, yeah.
I was waiting for Matt's response, and it is nothing.
He's just so upset that he didn't think of it.
I like, my favorite video game map is Blood Gulch from Halo 1.
I don't know that one.
It's got 2 bases in it.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Let's just restart only doing Halo 1 maps. What's your favorite Halo 1 map?
Which is your favorite Hello Kitty Cruiser map?
No.
We are going to spiral if we do that. All right, we'll wrap it up.
Anyways,
thank you all for joining us. It was actually a really fun discussion. We really liked it. So this was also, I'm going to reiterate this. This was a suggestion made by one of our awesome friends, LittleBigHorner. Thank you so much for giving us this great suggestion. If you have a suggestion that you would like to see us do, please mention it in the comment section below, and we can add it to our list, and then we can possibly attack it next time. But that is going to be it from the Golden Dudes today. So I hope you have a lovely day and stay golden.
Bye.